You know, this show just gets more and more intense by the day. I mean, really. Breaking Bad, Season 5, Episode 11. So, Episode 11 follows a strange course of action where we follow 2-Bit Discount Matt Damon at the start. And so they're all in a diner talking about the Great Train Robbery. And I think that's an interesting thing that they discussed because they were using Walter White and Jesse as their true identities. And I think that that's going to play off somewhere. Now, this episode is awesome, guys. I mean, it really is. You can see everything starting to just converge into this messy, awesome stuff. So, basically, they're trying to get Jesse's life cleared, while at the same time, Walter is trying to balance out his life, but at the same time, the biggest thing is that he is trying to shut Hank down. And I'm so glad that they're showing that Hank is to be shut down. Because Hank is really on the warpath now. And Walter did something that I can't believe that he did. Walter flat out got him and Marie at a dinner table together and said, okay, we are not going to admit to anything, even though Hank's like, is this a confession? He sat there and continued, and Walter just flat out basically slipped him a disc, because earlier in the episode, as you guys saw, he said this is the only way to really take care of things. And that's what he did. So Walter is continuing to do his work in that sense. And he was very Heisenberg-y in this episode. This was the most Heisenberg-filled episode I think I've seen. He tells Walter Jr. about the cancer to keep him from going to Marie's, and he does this mysterious recording. Now, this is the big kicker of the episode. This is what was the best part of the show that I just want to click and rewatch again. The tape. That he takes the entire events from the moment of his idea of making meth all the way to present day and explains on camera that this is his death confession note, that Hank at the DEA was sitting there and is the one who's doing all this and forcing Walt to do it. And it's on camera, and so that makes one thing happen. Now, some people would be thinking, well, he's admitting it, so why can't they just arrest Walt? Because Hank is the only one who has this. Hank is sitting there saying, well, crap, if I am to turn this in and Walter is dead, there is no proof for Walter and all the proof for me, especially because of one big thing. Hank didn't know about his medical treatments. So Walter says, he forced me. They forced me to do this and pay him. So now there's that mysterious money that shows up on Hank's ledger. He has set Hank up. When Walter said that you best tread lightly, this is probably what he meant. He wasn't meaning to kill him or hurt him or anything. He is family after all. And I think I discussed my theory that I don't think he's going to ever kill Hank. And right here is the proof. He just inadvertently blackmailed Hank without ever technically having evidence, and he did better than Hank did. Hank was just kind of like, we're going to take the kids and we're just going to threaten you until you confess. And Walter basically said, and that doesn't work. So he flat out gives this recording straight to the camera where he's basically like, I am telling all of you now, I was forced to do all this, and I am so horrified that I had to do this, but Hank is the one who did it, and here is why. And it's like I'd say 10 to 15 minute monologue, honestly. It seems like it, but it's not in a bad way. You're just like, oh my god, he's doing this. You're just sitting there going, Heisenberg! Because it's so awesome. I mean, it really is thoroughly awesome. And that is one of the coolest scenes in Breaking Bad history. It's now, I'd say I'd put it in my top 4 Breaking Bad moments. Probably at maybe rank 3. I mean, it's so cool and it's so just great to see. But Then on top of that, everything starts to go wrong slightly when Walter, after he goes home and, does his own thing, and Jesse is trying to start a new life. Jesse is sitting there with Saul Goodman and is saying, I want to start a new life. Forget all this. It was Walter White's idea to basically start my life over. And Saul said, I can help you out. And so they go to get this guy. Now, normally he's going to go off and lead his own life. But then he has an epiphany. And he looks at his cigarette carton, and the one cigarette that's missing is the one with the ricin. And he pieces it together. And he goes and bursts into Saul Goodman's office and beats the piss out of Saul Goodman, threatens him with a gun, and then leaves. And Saul basically admits Walter did this. And so he now thinks officially that Walter poisoned the child that Jesse cared so much about with ricin. So he goes and just starts on a warpath, and Walt finds out and goes into his freezer at his work, the car wash, and grabs his 6-shooter, his .32 snub, I believe it is. And then he goes and bolts out. And then we see Jesse, and he's dumping gasoline all over Walter's house. I think Saul is going to start playing more key element than he was before, because he just got beat up by Jesse. Jesse's now about to burn Walt's house. Walt is running with his 6-shooter to his house to basically fight Jesse. And even Jesse says, if I say no, are you going to kill me like you did Mike? I know some people don't believe me. I really think it's going to be him and Jesse squaring off in the end. Not necessarily the end. I think the end is actually going to be him and Jesse maybe have their little riffraff, and then discount Matt Damon and his crew are going to pose a huge threat because they talked about the meth and going back on the streets. So I think that possibly what we're going to have is then Walt with the big machine gun having to square off against those guys. And Hank is going to have to play a part somewhere. I think maybe, my dad even posed this theory to me, what if Walt and Hank fight side by side if Walt basically says, I am going to help level this with you so we can just wreck it all and get it out of our lives, and then Walt can die in peace of cancer when it happens. So I personally think that he's going to use the ricin on himself right now. I also think that that giant machine gun is to square off against the mob men, and I also think that him and Jesse have to have their clash. And so it's really all coming down to the wire here. Guys, we have one more episode, and then I believe it's halfway done with this half. Tell me your theories, guys. I want to know them, of course. I open all. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Still doing this every week, and I'll talk to you soon.